Hello, you guys, and welcome to the Germany Women's Cave that needs some Lysol because we both have colds today.
Yes, I'm blaming England, and it's terrible, horrible weather.
Although we're not throwing shade, you guys, it's just the truth.
It
was so cold. When we got there, I left Maryland, it was 100 degrees. I got to England, it was like 55 and drizzle. It's July. At least break 65. And can we stop with the drizzle? I mean, I'm just saying. I'm sorry. I digress.
We do love England.
I love England. Don't get me wrong.
Minus the food and the weather, I love England.
I like the food. Some of the food is good. I'm Jade though.
Oh, and I'm Winona. Great job. Share the germs.
Why not? I mean, I think we have the same germs. We caught the same cold. Right?
Yeah, we did.
So it's the same germs.
This is what happens when you share a room while you're on tour. You roll over, you cough in her face.
It's not true.
She coughs in your face. And you wake up in the morning, you're both coughing.
That's not true. We don't cough in each other's face. No one does that. That's disgusting. We do.
I was thinking while we were asleep.
I had a whole separate bed on the other side.
That is true. You did.
So don't make this like a weird situation. Like you're making it sound weirder than it is.
We are so moving on. We're moving on. We wrote books.
Yeah, we did.
And since she's a literary agent, we have a literary agent, by the way.
I know, I don't even know why she came to the German Women's Game today. Like, I hope she has a mask.
I'm so excited. So I apologize to my audience. Well, my audience hears it every time, but I apologize to the literary agent because we're not shortcutting today. We're going through them all.
No,
we wrote books.
We're not. We're not going through them all. She lies. Our voices ain't going to hold out that long.
That's
true. That's a lot. So we wrote some books, right? So we wrote the And I Thought series. We're going to like say four.
No.
Wait, we're going to say four of the names and then y'all can check out the rest. All right. So we're And I Thought Divorce Was Bad with Other Life Lessons, which is also available on Audible. And I Thought Being Grown Up Was Easy. Surprisingly, it's not. And I Thought I Did My Journey Alone. And I Thought He Was the One. Okay, and the rest of the And I Thought series, you guys can just check out on Amazon.com.
I'm doing
or excuse me. Mm-hmm. What's up? Man. Okay, and then we wrote the Misfit Guide series. A sassy sway that leaves crooked footprints, Misfit Guides, cocktail stories in the LBD, and then Winona wrote the Widow Web series, and then we have some magazines and managers.
That one.
Because, you guys, if we didn't do enough stuff, we thought, why not do some magazines, right? So we have the 25 hottest indie authors, artists, and advocates, but you can check out online. You can buy it digitally, $4.50, because you know what? Save a tree and save a lot of money.
Because in print, it's $50.
It's not 50, it's 37.
It's 37, but by the time you do shipping and handling, it's $50.
Round in there. So, save a tree, get it digitally.
Save a tree,
and
save
then
money.
We have the And I Thought Literary Magazine. This is the second edition. To it. All right, you can check out everything that your ladies are doing at www.andwethought.com. The books are Amazon.com and Audible.com and BarnesandNobles.com. Okay, I think I've done the whole spiel, but you guys aren't here to hear about us. You're here to hear about our wonderful guests.
Wonderful guest. Introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Lina Camacho. I'm an agent at Galton Zacher Literary Agency. Yeah, and I guess I can talk about myself a bit here. Yeah. I've been publishing about 14 years now, though 5 of them were, the last 5 have been in agenting because I moved over from Random House Children's Marketing. And I did a bunch of other things where I kind of jumped around to different departments, so kind of gave me the lay of the land first. But yeah, now I'm an agent, 5th year, going strong, and I absolutely love it.
Okay, so my first question is,
let's jumping in. Let's go.
Yeah, how do you think that your marketing background serves you as a literary agent?
Yeah,
or does it serve you at all?
Yeah, well, especially and there are a lot of brilliant literary agents, but what's really interesting is for the ones who haven't worked in publishing on the other side, because we come from different angles. Some people start as literary assistants who work their way up, and some people start, as editors or other positions in publishing and then move over to agenting. And what I will say is, it is really helpful to have been privy to the conversations in those rooms and to understand what they say when, what they mean when they say certain things. What does a typical marketing plan look like? And it's kind of like understanding the code of marketing, and marketing is such a fluid thing in publishing. And I think like in most places, though I've only ever worked in publishing, but a lot of it really is throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping to see what works, because there's no hard and fast way to do something in such a way that it just blows up. It's like saying, let's make this tweet go viral. Like there's not a way to do that. And it made me laugh because sometimes people in digital marketing who didn't understand it, they were like, let's say we can make it go viral. And it's like, I don't think it's that simple to do. So yeah, no, it's helpful just to have seen the other side. And then that way, when I work with a client and then I ask for a marketing plan and I know, oh, this is a typical marketing plan. I know when to ask certain questions because again, there's so many stages in a publishing marketing plan that it's good to know when it's kind of the best point to ask, because a lot of agents tend to ask for the plans way too early. Like let's say when the book is initially purchased by an editor, sometimes they'll ask for the marketing plan and you can get something out of the editor, but it's way too in advance. And marketing plans take at least a good 9 months to really solidify.
Wow.
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
I feel like I need to slow down.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
And think. And then in that case, I'd never get anything done. Moving on. So you went from Random House to Galt's.
Galt and Zacher. That's okay. Yeah, Galt and Zacher Literary. Yeah.
Yes. That's like enormous to
Yeah.
not as enormous.
Right. Yeah.
How did you adjust to the culture?
You know, I really loved it. I mean, I still love it. And I've only ever worked at the big houses like Penguin and Random House, and now they're one massive organization that has come together. But I never felt like the corporate life per se was for me. You know, it has a really different mentality. And again, Random House and Penguin, they were amazing, but just such a different culture. Like you have to, you have to play the game. And obviously in publishing in general, and even on the agenting side, there's a certain amount of game playing, but you work for yourself more. And I feel like it's just better to work for yourself whenever possible. And where I am in particular, it's nice to be part of that boutique community, agency where they've had experience for so many years at bigger agencies and bigger places, but they bring it together in a much more personable way. And I just love that so much more than feeling like I'm a cog in the middle of so many other cogs and lost in the mix.
That spits out a book, that's a machine that provides money to lubricate the thing so the cogs will run again. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, see, look, I got off track again. And I'm already off track in my own mind. I have a good question. And I'm like, no, push it further back because my narcissism has risen.
No, say the good question.
Oh, Jade says I have to say the good question.
Oh, okay.
So the good question, I think it's good. It might be bad. You can tell me when I'm finished. With the advent of self-publishing and being able to go to like publishers directly sometimes or networking, do you think the literary agent actually has a future? And if so, what's the new role that it's going to take on?
Sure. And it's always interesting too. Obviously, I'm a literary agent and, I'm pro literary agents. However, when people ask me, do I need one? And I go, it depends. It's always, it depends because I'm very pro self-publishing. Things have evolved in such a way as that it makes sense in certain categories, certain genres that if you know what you're doing and you go in and you really treat it like a business plan, I think in certain cases it makes perfect sense to self-publish than go traditional publishing. So absolutely. With traditional publishing, again, it depends, right? Because if you're writing certain categories, certain genres, like for instance, adult romance, they do amazingly well, right, with self-publishing. And a lot of those authors, even people that I represent, they're hybrid. So they'll take some traditional roles and they'll take some and they make really good money. And again, it only goes for the people who treat it like an actual business. If someone comes to me and goes, hey, like, I just want to throw it out there because someone said no. And I'm like, wait a minute. So do you know what it takes to run this small individualized business? You might not be ready for that. I go, really do your research, talk to people who've done it successfully before you venture. And again, certain places, like for now, and again, it's going to change as soon as probably we finish this interview because publishing is ever evolving as you've seen for yourself. Right now, I'm definitely still needed, especially on the adult side for certain things. Children's in particular has not caught up with self-publishing. There are a few success stories. You think of like Amanda Hawking and you have in the adult side, E.L. James, but especially in the children's side, it hasn't yet hit that stride. So it also depends too, right? Like if you wanted to write a children's book and you go, okay, I want to be published by Random House, you would need a literary agent or something because they generally will only go through agents. So it really depends on what your goals are. So as long as you, the writer, know, okay, these are my goals, this is the area in which I'm writing, and you see that there's a market there, I think can work. But in terms of my side, I'm still very much needed. I know that what's really interesting is seeing how the digital evolution has affected contracts, has affected basically everything. And even publishers are still trying to keep up with that, right? In terms of retaining certain rights, like we obviously fight for our clients to retain as much as possible. And then, publishing houses are trying to make rights grabs that maybe they should not be grabbing. So we make sure that our clients can exploit their own rights for their own gain. So that's really helpful, because especially if you're working with the big five and if you're working in a space that isn't yet burgeoning in terms of self-publishing, I think we can be very valuable. And what the upside is, I will say, is so many agents work with hybrid authors for those who want to explore it and want to go, all right, let me see if I like this. Because some people do like that support, but it depends on your personality, right? Because if you know that going into traditional publishing might not be the right fit, and by that it means, again, if you're writing into a difficult subject that's not yet self-publishing successful, and understanding that it becomes more of a community project, right? You lose a lot of control. It no longer is the thing that you have 100% say over. So if that's the case and you're like, oh my gosh, no, I cannot do that, I'm a control freak, which is perfectly fine. Like if you know yourself, stick with self-publishing. And again, as you evolve, and people like you're doing right by yourself. You know exactly what you're doing. You're doing marketing, you're doing promotion, and you just keep talking to other people who've done it well. I think I'm so curious to see what happens with self-publishing in the future. And I'm really curious to see how traditional publishing continues to evolve, because it's stabilized in an interesting way. The only downside to self-publishing, and again, in certain spaces, is that unless you know what you're doing, which I get, I'm a lazy person. So I think for me, if I were a writer doing self-publishing, it would be so hard for me, because you have to be go, go, go all of the time, right? As a writer, you're not even just writing, you're promoting, you're designing, you're doing so many aspects. You're making sure the data information is flowing correctly. The only thing that can be tricky about that, but it's similar in the sense with traditional publishing, is that there's so much self-published work, but there's even more than traditional publishing, because what I love that people can get their voices out there. It's like, how do consumers really parse what's good quality versus the stuff that people just, and again, I've met both. I've met the successful, wonderful self-published person. I've also met the person who are like, I just want to be published, so I'm going to throw it up there. And then those people kind of clog the drains a bit. So that's what can make it a bit tricky to get noticed. But I think once you do it, it can work wonderfully.
I agree.
I mean, so she explained that whole soapbox in 3 minutes?
I was just about to say that. And then I just wanted to agree with you on that one thing, because I am currently having writer's block for the first time ever in my life, second time ever. And I've been writing for 20 years. So it's the first time I've ever had writer's block on a YA novel, on my kids' novel. But I did not try to self-publish that thing.
Yeah.
I was like, no. I ran into a publisher that was a friend, and when she talks about it, because there's not much space in the kids' world to do that on your own. I do know some YA self-published people who do okay. But yeah, they
fought hard.
They did. They fought for every inch. Yeah. So definitely think about that. Did you say you do adult and children, or just children?
I do both, actually. Yeah, adult and children's.
I thought so. No, I was rereading. I'm not gonna lie, because yesterday
medicine kicked in.
Yeah, medicine kicked in. It kicked me real hard this morning. Maybe it was because I was groggy on top of it. And I completely forgot what the person did for work. So I was like, no, I'm not doing that again. I wrote it down, and I'm reading it, and I'm still forgetting. I'm like, read, and then I ask a question. I'm like, that is not what she does. What's wrong with me? Anyway, that was so I love how you explain that role. Now, my narcissistic question was, do you ever allow anybody in the room Like, is there a way to win my way into like a meeting at a literary agency?
Oh, do you mean like if you're trying to seek an agent and then trying to
I
actually
just
meet?
want to know what you guys know. I just want to sit in the room and take notes so I can walk out with that knowledge.
Oh, God. Oh, so like in the middle of our meetings, just like taking notes, being a fly on the wall. That would be tricky. That would be tricky.
Just tell them I'm
That's
the
a
coffee girl.
Coffee.
Hired me specifically to make coffee. That was my job.
Oh my gosh. You know, it's interesting too, that some people have certainly done it that way and that's fine, where they've been like interns or something. And then they're like kind of using that information to go, oh, okay. Like that's how things work. And then they go off and be writers. And that certainly does happen. That's the way I generally see it happen, being that fly on the wall. Sure.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Okay, so do you have any suggestions for people that want to be represented? Like one person that we knew wanted to get the show on television, like they were like taglines are important. So is there anything that you can suggest to an author that wants to have representation? What is truly important in that query letter, in that email that they send?
Top, most important.
Like top two.
Oh, top two, man. I will say, and it's so hard. It's because I wish I could say this is the thing that's like the magic bullet, whatever that is, because there's some people, okay, ideally, you have a really good pitch. And what does that mean? What is a good pitch? It means really knowing what your story is, right? Because some people will come and it's okay. Like they're still figuring it out. Even if they've written their story, they're like, oh, it's this and that, and it doesn't have a genre. And I'm like, no, you need to figure out what your story is, because if I can't get a visual, then let's say you're pitching me something, I'm already going, okay, if I like it, can I sell it? Because marketing doesn't want to hear it's never been done before. There's no genre, stuff like that. But also something like that says to me, maybe you're not as familiar with the canon of the genre and category in which you're writing. So for instance, if you're writing adult women's fiction, and you're like, I'm writing this thing that's never been done before, then I'm like, pretty much, you could surprise me, but pretty much everything's been done before. So show me that you know the scope of what you're publishing into. Because also the question I'm going to ask you, like, let's say I read that query letter, and again, focus on the story. I think this is going to be the thing before I go off on a tangent. Focus on the story, because sometimes
Go for the tangent.
I go off on lots of tangents because there's so much info I can just tell you could take days. But when you're writing a query letter, I think people forget, and I understand why, but they will give me their life story and then almost forget to tell me what the actual book is about. And, because they're so invested in the story, so they'll say, I've been reading since I was 10 years old and writing stories. But that, I want to first know, what is the story? You're trying to hook me and make me fall in love with the story. So start there, have an amazing premise, give me a sense of the story. And then by the end of that query letter, you do have a little bit at the bottom where you could say who you are. And it's okay if you didn't have an MFA, if you don't have publications or awards, even if you're like, I live in the suburbs with my 2 cats, that's fine. It gives me a sense of your personality. And by the time I get to that, if you hooked me with your story, I will want to know so much more about you. Like that will come after the fact. So focus on the story, figure out your pitch, and figure out the voice, because that is so key. And again, when I am intrigued by the pitch, I'm going to jump right to your pages. And again, especially with those opening pages, yes, of course, I'm looking to make sure that there's a character that I can fall in love with and there's plot and all that. But ultimately, it has to speak to me. It's kind of like when you're reading a best-selling novel and you're like, why is this a bestseller? Or when you're reading a book that you love, but nobody seemed to really get in that way, and it wasn't a bestseller, right? It's a very personal thing. It's very subjective. So sometimes, and I will say this, I pass on a lot of good writing. It doesn't mean, because even in my rejection letters, I'll always say, look, this wasn't for me, but I know you're going to find that right fit of representation. And I'm always very encouraging, because even if I thought this is the worst writing, which I generally don't, but let's say I hated it, it doesn't mean I'm right. There's going to be somebody else who falls in love with it. And I think that's the connection you really need to make. But yes, above all, know the format of the query letter. There's so much information out there. Like Janet Reed has a blog called Query Shark, and she will actually give samples of query letters that she will break down and revise. So know what it looks like. Never talk down about yourself is another thing I see too. Actually, I see it in two ways. I see, and it's usually men, sorry, not every man, but many men will tend to go, this is the best thing, that's ever been written, as opposed to all the other books, and you're crazy if you don't take this on. Like, I get a lot of that. Or conversely, I will see a lot of women usually going, this is my first time writing. I hope that I'm doing it right. You're trying to sell yourself, right? You're trying to show, look, even if this is your first book, it doesn't mean you're not good at it, and maybe you're learning, but sell yourself the way you would like in a job interview, right? You're confident, but you're not overselling that you're sounding jerky. It's like that perfect balance. But yeah, so look at the query letter and give it your best shot. And ultimately it is subjective. So fingers crossed.
Okay, so
Okay,
I gotta say,
I have to correct myself. It wasn't a tagline, it was a log line. Okay. Now.
Log line, yes, log line. That's always helpful too. That's always helpful. I will say sometimes that can help if it's one of those high concept, like when you see a movie, very pitchy kinds of stories. I think the people who might have quieter, more literary stories can struggle with that. And to which I say, just focus on what the story's about. Like, figure out, you have to tell me, first of all, who the character is, what the character wants, what's getting in their way. Like, if you can give me that and the stakes, even if it's quiet, even if it's not like, it's Transformers meets Shark or something like that, even if it's not something like that, I will still fall for it. And don't worry about trying to find the perfect log line if it's really hard, but at least give me the heart of your story.
I love that.
Absolutely.
I love it.
I love it.
I teach a course on how to take query letters and make them into pitches for PR. But anyway,
yeah,
but it's really important to know the format of your query letter. This comes from a person who has not actually been traditionally published from a query letter. She knows what she's talking about. Anyway, moving on. I just wanted to know if you had room on your roster for two adorable Black girls that look 22 and amazing work. And wait. And both are awarded.
Yes.
And she's the current poet of the year.
Yeah,
I'm just saying
all of that.
I mean, in general,
we're joking.
By the way, we are joking. Don't even.
Okay.
Please don't even think about it. Please don't even think about that. That's ridiculous. But please just think about this last question because we're at the end.
She can ask her one question.
No, we are over time.
Sorry, I talked a lot.
Well, no. Why is she sitting there? Best book you've ever read.
Oh my God, no! I don't. That's hard. Why are you doing this?
Skip it then.
See?
Okay. I can't see. I don't have favorites. I can't.
The book that started you into a literary career.
Oh gosh. Okay. Interestingly enough, it was probably R.L. Stine.
Nice.
Yeah, probably Goosebumps series because I loved his series. Yeah. Okay, I could say that. Yeah.
Okay. So the last question is, where can people find you and what's that?
That's Galton Zacher.
There you go. You can find it at Galton Zacher. Google it. Beautiful thing, the internet.
Exactly. I'm on Twitter at Linda Random, and also you can just Google us. We're Galton Zacher, so it's GALTZACKER.com. Right now we're closed to submissions just for the summer. But again, feel free. We have so many amazing agents at the agency that will be opening sometime in September. So please do reach out, and I look forward to seeing your queries.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on and dealing with us through our cold. We really appreciate it. And remember, you guys, you can always find what your ladies are doing on www.andwethought.com. You can go to the ladies page, go to the middle, and see the charities that we probably support.
Please support them too.
Yes. Time, money, either way. And remember that wisdom is all around you if
you're open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love, you guys, from a mezzo soprano Winona
and Jade. Bye-bye.